Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, getting ready for the show here in about 1 minute. In about 1 minute, we're going to go live on Newstalk 1040, show number 44. So much to talk about. Oh my goodness. We're getting ready for Passover. We've got Earth Day. We've got all kinds of different protests. We've got Trump stuff, just tons and tons to talk about. Paul at Villarreal is joining us on the phone. I'm going to be quiet right now as we get ready for the live feed. So just stay tuned. About 30 to 60 seconds is what we should be looking at here.
AHR.
Welcome to the John Villarreal Show. Now here's John.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's me, John D. Villarreal, and today, it's Earth Day. It's April 22nd, all over the greater Tampa Bay area here. 4:06 p.m. here on Newstalk 1040 a.m. live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, X. So much to talk about. It's not even funny. Just tons and tons of stuff that we're going to dive into. And I don't even know that we can get to it all, quite frankly, honestly. Like, I went over this stuff on my LinkedIn. I posted on it. And it's just, we have so many things. Everything from the Trump trials. Everything from, obviously, Passover, Earth Day, things like that. We've got Cat Williams about to drop a new comedy special that looks like it's anti-woke. He did that big thing with Club Shay Shay, Shannon Sharp. And that was huge. That went viral. He really like blasted people in Hollywood. We've also had Bill Maher come out against, Hollywood and some of the left agenda, some of the really hard left agenda on his Real Time with Bill Maher. We've also had situations with Bill Maher and Katie Couric. And Katie Couric said some stuff that I think may have gotten her in some hot water. Sounded kind of elitist to some people. We also have these massive protests that are going on all over the Ivy League and also other elite places as well, right? We talked about what happened at Berkeley Law, my alma mater, and stuff like that. We talked about, there's things happening in MIT, Stanford. We just also had a situation. We're going to be bringing in Paul at Villarreal, and he's been big on Twitter, and he's growing on Twitter. He's almost at 18,200 followers, maybe eclipsed that. A lot of people repost his stuff. He's connected with a lot of top people, and we've been talking about what's happened over the weekend with the bill passing Congress with the funding for the foreign aid, Ukrainian foreign aid, and Israeli, Taiwan, other stuff like that. When that happened, you literally had members of Congress look like Democrats, from what I saw, because you have the different separations of the aisle and stuff like that, and a number of them were waving Ukrainian flags. Now, I don't want to make too much of any one thing, but our local congresswoman here, now I'm represented by Congressman Stubbe, Congressperson Stubbe down here in Sarasota, but I was represented, and a lot of our listeners are represented by Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, and she blasted the Democrats. I think the quote was, and I'll see if I can find it on C-SPAN and we'll play it, "Put those flags away." Now, there may have been some other language in there as well. I can't remember. I'm not saying, but it was basically my paraphrase was "put those flags away." And a lot of people had a problem with that. Now, we need to talk about the economy. We need to talk about the Trump trials. We need to talk about Trump's visit to the bodegas. We need to talk about Ryan Garcia shocking the world and massive upset of Devin Haney. I think he was like a 7-1 underdog. And it's obviously you've got the sports story of that, but then also there's other things there where he's talking about, religious stuff and thanking God and different. And you had a lot of people, and in fact, a lot of the comments that were in there, if you looked at the comments on some of the things, it was like, hey, Garcia beat He beat three people. He beat three entities. He beat the refs, the judges. He beat Haney, the ref, the judges, and then a lot of people were saying in the Illuminati. And so there's a lot of different things going on out there. And I would be remiss if we did not talk about the explosive, viral, 3+ hour interview between Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. And a lot of people are talking about that, and that has had major implications. Let's bring in Paul at Villarreal. Paul, what's going on over here? Lots going on. How about we start with the whole situation with the funding, Ukraine and Israel funding over the weekend. There's also, to put this in there too, there also was a resignation by one of the top intelligence people in Israel. So much going on here. Bring us up to speed.
There is a ton going on, John. What's going on, 1040 AM audience? Yeah, look, what you said about Representative Luna, I think is spot on. I think you got the quote basically straight up. Look, Representative Luna is a military veteran. And I think for her, my sense is that seeing a flag that is not the American flag being like kind of flown around the way that it was just didn't sit well. And I saw a number of other veterans who felt the same way about that. And yeah, she was upset. A lot of people were upset. In fact, I heard Marjorie Taylor Greene talking to Steve Bannon this morning saying the same thing. And it's definitely resonated in the sense that it's not just that it's the flag of Ukraine, but it's kind of like what I saw people saying was, look, you're spending all of this money going over to Ukraine, and there are people here right now struggling. They're homeless. Veterans are out on the street. People don't have enough to eat, and you guys are waving this flag like something great just happened when a lot of people are feeling like that money should be coming and staying here in America. So, yeah, that was a big thing that happened. That was Saturday.
It was Saturday, no doubt about it. In fact, I'm about to share the screen right here, and let's take a look at this right now. Hold on one second. It might take me a second here, and I think I did kind of. I'm going to get the exact quote. I'm going to go on to Representative Anna Paulina Luna's X account, and she's got it right there. I believe this is a C-SPAN feed. If it is, I think we're going to be able to share that audio. I'm not going to promise that in the 1040 audience, but we are going to share the screen for LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. And let's see if we can do this right now. Okay. And one second. Let's try to get this all organized correctly here. We're going to show this right here. Right here. Okay. Post from Anna Paulina Luna. Put those blank flags away. This is from Anna Paulina Luna. This is okay. This is 2:25 p.m. When this was posted. It's got almost 1 million views, 923.1 thousand views on April 20th, 2024. Representative Anna Paulina Luna at Rep Luna, quote, "Put those blank flags away. It is a disgrace to display any other flag than the American flag in the House chamber." Now, obviously, I put the blank in there. You can see the exact quote if you want to. I think that we have some sound here. I'm assuming this is from C-SPAN. Let's see if we can do this. And I'm pretty sure this is not one of the. I believe we definitely can play this on the air. Let me see if I can get this. I'm not going to promise anything here. We're going to try this right now and see if this works. One second.
The House will be in order.
Here we go. Here comes Anna Paulina Luna, Representative Luna.
Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table.
Here we go. John T. Villarreal Radio Show on Newstalk 1040.
I said, the gentlewoman from Florida. The House.
Right there. There you hear it. There you hear it. That is from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. Used to be my representative there in Congress and certainly represents a lot of people over there in Pinellas County, in the St. Petersburg, Madeira Beach, Clearwater, that whole area, Paul. And she was not happy on that situation, and you heard it right there from Representative Anna Paulina Luna. What is your reaction to that?
Look, I think a lot of people felt the exact same way about this. This was the foreign aid bills passing caused a tremendous amount of backlash among the conservative base. And so there was already that feeling. And then you have this kind of like cherry on top, spiking the ball in the end zone, Ukrainian flag waving. I just think for some people that was just a little bit too much. And I believe that Anna Paulina Luna reflected that in what she said right there.
Well, and here's the thing. And we talked a lot about this, and, you know, let's see. I mean, full disclosure, you and I have a slightly different take on it, but maybe not. But I mean, I think, and we don't need to get too into that, but I just want to make this distinction. And I think you touched on it right there. And I'm just going to slow it down to be very careful about how we say this. I think there's a lot of people, certainly, you know, we had three major components there. And there should have been four, right? There was the aid to Ukraine, aid to Israel, aid to Taiwan, and then there was a lot of talk that there was going to be border security in this. And what ended up happening was there was no border security in this. We do have a big problem here. We do have veterans on the, you know, that are homeless, and we got all kinds of problems. We got people saying, "Hey, we shouldn't bail out these kids that took the student loans and stuff like that." And full disclosure, I've got student loans and I've got a lot of them. So does my wife and stuff like that. And but you had people that were real against that. Oh, that's just so. But hey, let's send another $60 billion to Ukraine. Show me the person that can show me how we're going to. I want to hear the at this point, after how many billions, after how many, there may be over 100 billion. I don't know the exact count, but a lot of money. What is the plan to win over that? What are we going to win? What is that money going for? Oh, John, we can't. It's classified. It's all classified. Where's the plan? But we'll get to that. The point is this. It's one thing to, of course, we support NATO, and I think Trump had some good comments. I think Trump has, and Paul, you're going to talk about this. I think Trump has really kind of calibrated this pretty well. Yes, we support Israel, but everyone needs to be treated equally. Hey, you're losing the PR war. Hey, we need to wind this down, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we support NATO, but hey, Europe and everyone else has to pay their fair share. Where you should be defending Europe more than us, and when are you stepping up and things like that. But let's put all that aside. We'll get to that. Probably, maybe. There's so much to get to. I can't promise. But it's one thing to say, listen, we need to do this. We need to step up. We need to stand up for the democracies and all. Okay. Although that's okay. Well, Ukraine's. Listen, it's just true. Anyway, let me revise and extend that. You can be all for Ukraine aid, obviously Israel aid, in Taiwan. I would actually put that in characterize those a little bit differently. I don't want to get into because all these are super long subjects we can blow out for 2 hours. And if I make a mistake, I apologize. And I'll revise and extend everything. These are all complicated subjects. We're going to try to touch on all of them. And there's a lot to get to today. I don't want to get too hung up on this. You understand the gist of what I'm saying. You can be for this aid. But the problem of it is this. The majority of people, and I'll get to that. I have to find it. When I tee up Paul, I'll try to find the poll. I believe, Paul, no, that may be thinking of another poll. But I think a majority of, you tell me because you're more chopped in this, I think a majority of Republicans now are against more Ukrainian aid. And when you have the optics of the Republican speaker and people like MTG and others, Gates, I don't want to put words in the Gates, but MTG was out there, were not happy with the way Speaker Mike Johnson was threatening to, put another speaker vote and do all this type of stuff. And the optics of it looked like the uniparty was in charge, if you will. If you believe in a uniparty, I'm not alleging anything. I'm just using common vernacular. and you see the visceral reaction by a veteran sitting Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna. You had basically the Republican speaker not listening to some of the Republican caucus, caucusing with the Democrats. It needed Democrats. A majority of Democrats passed this. I believe a majority of Republican voters did not want this additional Ukraine aid or had questions or whatever. You'll clarify that. I could be wrong, but you'll clarify that. And then on top of that, and maybe some people would say it's a small thing, but some people would say it's a big thing to have these Democrat congresspeople in the House after the vote pulling out Ukrainian flags. And remember, this is the party that was all Russia, collusion, foreign interference, and they've got Ukrainian flags waving them on the House floor after this vote. The optics were really, really bad. Paul, your comments.
They were bad. And you going back to the poll, look, I know that Marjorie Taylor Greene was on with Maria Bartiromo this Sunday on Sunday Morning Futures, and she repeated a poll that said that 70% of, I think she said 70% of Americans, not just Republicans, 70% of Americans don't support more Ukraine aid to Ukraine. So that's what she was saying. Look, there is no question that of the various components of this bill that were, as you mentioned, aid to Taiwan, aid to Israel, aid to Ukraine, and I also believe that they threw in the TikTok ban with this, and also a repo act to seize Russian assets and have them pay for some aspect of of this. The most unpopular part of this bill, in my opinion, when it comes to the Republican base, is the Ukraine bill, is the Ukraine aspect of it. I think there's been a very strong digging in from the base, from people like J.D. Vance, from others, is saying, what are we doing here? And in fact, Business Insider reported today, I believe, that an American, I think somebody in the military, I believe a general, said that right now, today, Russia has 15% more forces than when the war started. So what are we doing here? We know Ukraine is running out of manpower. We know that they're running out of artillery to use, not that provided to them, but just artillery that is produced in the world right now because so much has been used in this conflict. Russia's bulking up. And so it's kind of like, what is happening here? If we're spending all this money, where are the results? Just people are not happy. They're not.
I mean, that's the thing. And I'm seeing, and listen, like Poland, you can find Poland all over the place, as you'd expect. And, and then of course, when you've got the mainstream outlets out there, I mean, listen, you can, I'll just leave it at that. You can find Poland all over the place. I'm trying to, let's see. Okay, there we go. I'm then trying to get these ready. I've got some stuff here. I may or may not show it. Let's see. We'll hold on. Let's see. Try to share the screen right here. We've got a couple things here. We've got the Bartiromo stuff. She usually does a really good job here. I've got some AP stuff. I've got some another one here. Now it may be the same polling. We've got something here we're sharing right now. Let's see. Okay, here we've got I don't know what site this is, but a majority of Americans support sending aid. This says 53% of Americans support us, and this was according to a CBS News YouGov poll, and this is April 15th. However, you've got, I believe, one second here, a majority of Republicans, 61% said the U.S. should not send military aid. And that's a CBS News YouGov poll, okay? And that's a CBS News YouGov poll. Now, if we get out of here, and let's get this out of here, all right? And then if we go over here, and this may be the same kind of poll here, I believe we have an AP stuff here. We've got an AP breakdown here. And then we've got here that say the Democrats think there's a little bit too little aid. But Republicans, 55% say there's too much. So it's any way you slice it, the bottom line is that Republicans were not for this. Now, I'm not disputing anything you said about Maria Bartiromo and stuff like that, because I think there's different polling out there and whatnot. And so you've got Speaker Johnson there. I mean, let's spin to that. I mean, it's going to pass and all that. Let's understand this, or let's talk about this. What aspect or what impact, Paul, is this going to have for Speaker Mike Johnson? And in fact, President Trump said earlier, because there was a meeting between Mike Johnson and Speaker Johnson, and President Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And then there was talk about, oh, hey, Trump, and Trump has gone out there and clearly said, nobody speaks for me except for me, right? I mean, talk about that a little bit. What kind of political impact do you think that this vote is going to have?
It's had a big negative impact. And I can tell you for my own self, and I told you this off air.
You did.
About a week ago,
Go ahead.
I felt good about Mike Johnson. I felt pretty happy with him. I felt pretty pleased. In the last week, I think it's all been downhill, and I believe there are a lot of people who feel that exact way. We both, I know you feel similar to this. I thought when Mike Johnson came on the scene as a speaker, this was a refreshing guy who's earnest, honest, and whatever. And now I feel like we're kind of heading towards that Mike Pence path, which is kind of a holier than thou, but feels like he's kind of taken in by the establishment position. And I really hate to say that because I like Mike Johnson. In the last 10 days or so, it's really felt like that. And I say that because some of the answers that he is giving on questions about these votes just don't seem credible. I mean, he went into, like, for example, on the FISA thing, which is another recent bill.
Right.
He wanted a warrant. He believed that there should be a warrant for searching, I believe, American communications. And then he went in and got a classified brief, whatever, and then he didn't want a warrant suddenly. And then he said, so he's saying that type of thing. He's saying that, I'm trying to remember one of the other, like, he had several different walkbacks like this, including, of course, the biggest one, which you mentioned, which is, he said months ago that if any foreign aid bill was going to get done, it was going to include border security. Well, that didn't happen. And so there's been a whole bunch of stand downs here taking place by Mike Johnson. Now, look, to be fair to him, I get it. You have a one-seat majority. I think there's a kind of understanding in the Republican leadership that, look, we have to appear as though we can actually govern here, have to be able to manage things.
Right.
So we want to get things passed. However, the biggest problem I think that Mike Johnson has had in this last 10 days is he has not communicated things well. You mentioned President Trump. President Trump is the master of both negotiating and communicating.
We got to take a break.
So
We're going to talk more about this. I appreciate that, Paul. Lots more to talk about. We're just getting started. This show is going to go very, very quickly. You're listening to John D. Villarreal Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040 and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Be back in 6 minutes. Yes, we're back. John D. Villarreal here at the John D. Villarreal Radio Show on Newstalk 1040 live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and X. Oh my goodness, so much to talk about. We're right in the middle of talking to Paul at Villarreal, and I had to cut him off for the break there. Sorry about that. Paul, you had some final thoughts you want to talk about with the whole thing with Mike Johnson and Trump.
Yeah, look, Mike Johnson again, what I was saying is I don't think he's communicated his positions effectively in this last 10 days, and that has hurt him greatly. So times before where it seemed like he was being very honest and very open, suddenly he seemed much less candid about some of these votes. And I just don't think people were buying it. People were not going for it. And that gave rise to people like Thomas Massey, like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and some others to say, you know what? I don't know if this guy is going to be the guy going forward. Although, to be fair, Marjorie Taylor Greene backed off from any motion to vacate right now.
She did do that. And I'm also, I thought I saw, I may be wrong, but yeah, no, I found this. Okay, hold on a second. I've got another screen I'm going to be sharing right here. And this is something, and people have different feelings on this. I completely understand it. But I think that this is, hold on, and this is foxnews.com. 1 second. Let me share the screen here. 1 second. So the people online can see it. Okay, and let me also get this a little bit bigger. 1 second. Whoop, that's a little bit too big there. It's maybe, all right. And this is from foxnews.com, Elizabeth Elkind, and published April 15th, 2024. Okay. And here we go. Show it on the screen. Speaker Johnson says it's U.S.'s quote-unquote biblical admonition to help Israel. Paul, your reaction on that?
Look, I mean, here's what I'm going to say about this. Like, for example, I'm in Pennsylvania, and Pennsylvania has...
Hold on, sorry. I greatly apologize. I want to get the full quote out here. Quote, we have to make certain the entire world understands that Israel is not alone and God is going to bless the nation that blesses Israel, Johnson said. We understand that's our role. It's also our biblical admonition. This is something that's an article for faith for us. It also happens to be great foreign policy. Paul, now that we have the full quote, your reaction.
So, as I said, I mean, I'm here in Pennsylvania where there are a large number of Jewish people, and there are also a large number of Catholics here. I think there is a bond. I think a lot of Catholics feel a bond with people of Israel because, of course, the Old Testament and 10 Commandments and so on and so forth. And I think that's where Speaker Johnson is coming from. However, as a matter of policy, or as a public position, I don't know if that's really the way that some people are going to want that presented, because you have to be fair to everybody of all backgrounds and all faiths. So that's just my personal feeling on that, even though I can say that I understand where I think he's coming from, but I just don't know if that is what you want to project to the world.
Well, I'm probably going to take some heat for this, but I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, that's why you listen to John D. Villarreal Radio Show here and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. I'm going to shoot you straight. I'm going to tell it like it is, or like I believe it is. I mean, I don't have a patent on the truth and anything like that, but I think that was a huge mistake. I think that's a huge mistake. I think that is something that I wouldn't say as a congressperson. Definitely something I would not say as a speaker, let alone a president, this and that. And some people said, Johnson's got presidential ambitions. Like, you just can't use that. Like, we have protest, and we'll get into it. We have protests right now. We have people from all faiths in America. And when you say something like that, when you have that kind of statement juxtaposed with the Ukrainian flags from the Democrats, and you're passing this with Democrats, I mean, this whole thing had just a terrible look optically to it.
Yeah.
It really did. And as you said, Paul, again, how do you criticize Iran? Of course, I understand that. But I mean, if you're going to say, well, that's you've got the religious leaders running that organization. Well, when you say this, Mike Johnson, how are you any different? Now,
yeah.
Right? I mean, we understand. We understand that there is the high percentage of Christians in America and everything like that. Fantastic. But this is not. Yes, in God we trust. Yes, the founding fathers were religious and Christian. But this country is not founded on religion. In fact, the First Amendment has freedom of speech and freedom of religion. When you throw that in there, Mike Johnson, you're way off base, brother. I know you're a speaker. I'm nobody. I get it. I that's fine. But you cannot do that and maintain the moral high ground and everything like that. And it, particularly when you're wading into that, when you say that, and I think that's another reason why Trump is very smart, that he speaks for himself. When you say that, how do you expect us to send our people from the State Department over there, or President Trump, or sit down with the Abraham Accords, or sit down with Saudi Arabia, or sit down with Iran, or sit down with Qatar, and try and sit down with the Palestinians and try to bridge this? How do you say that, dude? You just a huge mistake. And there's a lot I like about Mike Johnson, really is. But this last, and I get it, you need to make some tough votes. And I believe in Mike Johnson's heart of hearts. I don't know, but I believe in Mike Johnson's heart of hearts that he believes that he was doing the right thing, and he saw the intelligence and the adults in the room and everything like that. But when you talk about, and I'm going to revise this slightly. When you talk about, as you said, Paul, FISA, reauthorization, you talk about this Ukraine aid, you talk about the flags, you talk about this biblical admonition, you talk about all that. It looks like political amateur hour up there the last week or two on the Republican side. It really does. And I don't want to say the Republican side, that Speaker's office. And then you have the revelation. I believe it was, it wasn't Chris Rufo. Who was it? Someone has found this, and Chris Rufo's been doing some amazing work out there. We'll get to that. That Speaker Johnson's top aide allegedly is a big never Trumper and was getting into it with the DC Young Republicans over her support, or excuse me, over her not supporting their support of President Trump. I mean, you just can't say that stuff, dude. You can be the biggest. Look, listen, it's Passover. We're all for anyone. I'm a Catholic and stuff like that. We believe we're Christians and that's fine. And I'm married to an Israeli, U.S. citizen now, dual citizen, whatever. Half of my family over there, roughly, not quite, but I mean roughly half of our roots go back to, I believe, on our side, on my dad's side, Sephardic Jews. A lot of my family on my wife's side are Jewish in Tel Aviv, stuff like that. Lots of Muslim friends. We love everybody, dude. You mean whatever you believe is whatever you believe. You save that for Sunday, Mike Johnson, or you save that for your private statement. This is what you're right on the morning, Paul. We do not need any more Mike Pences up there.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. I don't need evangelizing from the Speaker of the House's office. I'm sorry, sir. I don't need that. And neither does any other American out there. That is inappropriate. That's inappropriate, sir. Tying to U.S. Foreign policy. That's inappropriate. I wouldn't want that from the president. I wouldn't want that from any elected politician like that. You, sir, are the Speaker of the House and must represent all Americans. And when you tie that up with religious stuff like that to foreign policy, that's a very dangerous game, sir. That's a very dangerous game, in my opinion. And again, I'm nobody. I'm a talk show host. I'm whatever. But I think that is 100% wrong. Now you can say we have a special relationship with Israel. We support Israel. We want peace and stuff like that. But how do you be an honest broker for peace after you? I mean, what are you doing? It's just so bizarre right now, Paul, because, and then the Democrats, the Democratic Party has a massive political problem that is evidencing itself out there on Columbia, Yale, MIT now. I mean, you can go on down the list. We'll get to that. But I want to stay on this. Am I wrong or am I right on this, Paul? Did I go over the top there? I mean, do you understand what I'm trying to talk about there? I mean, you can believe whatever you want to believe. But when you make a statement as Speaker of the House and you tie that to foreign policy when there's a war involved, I don't like that, Paul. Go ahead.
Look, I hate to say this, but I agree with you. And again, I'm Christian. I'm sympathetic to Israel and all, but you cannot do that as a government official. That's where you get into separation of church and state. And I really hate bringing this up, but I have to bring it up. There is a push, in my opinion, from the left, this kind of canard or specter of supposed Christian nationalism, which I think is supposed to be like, okay, you want a nation that's guided under almost like a theocracy. When you start saying stuff like what Mike Johnson said, then you start playing into that caricature. That is not a good thing politically, and it's not the right thing to do because, like you said, you must represent all people. And what you said, no matter how you feel personally, what you said, I think, is completely spot on, and it's what many people are picking up, which is this felt like amateur hour this last week. I think Mike Johnson's a smart man. I think he's a good man. I don't think he was ready for this kind of swing around the fence. And he's, in my opinion, failed. And it's unfortunate. I don't think he's going anywhere right now. I think he's lost a tremendous amount of luster in this last 10 days.
I agree. And I think that your point there, I forgot about the less push on that. Right. You're playing right into that, dude. What are you doing? What are you doing? I mean, listen, I'm pretty darn, you know me, Paul, I'm really good at like evaluating people and kind of reading on people and being ahead of the game. And I don't know whatever that is, dude. EQ, IQ, I don't know, dude. Reading people, but I can read people pretty well without even, just by seeing. I could be wrong. I've been fooled before, but I mean, the vibe I get is that Mike Johnson's a good guy. The vibe I get is that he, believes in this stuff. But you just can't do that, dude. You can't do that. This is the thing. On so many different issues, this country is so special. It really is, and we are in danger of losing the thread, losing the plot on this, what makes this country so special, if we do not adhere to the Constitution and to the values and to the system of government that makes it so special. It's not so special because, listen, it's a beautiful land. We have a lot of resources. It's not so special because of anything. The reason why this is so special, the reason why everyone from all around the world comes over here, Jewish people and Muslim people and Sikhs and Hindus and Buddhists and Christians and everybody else and atheists and whoever you are and whatever you believe, is because everybody's welcome here, bro. It's because you can do the First Amendment, bro. Freedom of speech and freedom of religion, both are under threat now. Both were under threat with the lockdowns and COVID. It was under freedom of speech. Now we have disinformation. We got the fight. We got all this. It's crazy land. And I'm not trying to be hyperbolic or anything like that. We're not like that. We'll talk about that later. It's, unfortunately, to be popular on some of these social media platforms, you have to ratchet it up and stuff. And we don't do that. And thankfully, I'm seeing that a lot of top people, if I say it here, if Paul says it here, don't be surprised if you hear it a day, 2 weeks, a week, 6 weeks later. Patrick Bet-David comes out and what have I been saying for a long time? We want to lower the temperature. We love everybody. And now he just said that about Iran. He's got a lot of good, he was born in Iran. He has a lot of good comments about that and interesting stuff like that. Had a thing on Piers Morgan. So I listen, I make mistakes. I'm sure I'll make mistakes in this broadcast. I probably have already made mistakes. Okay. Tucker Carlson was using that line on Joe Rogan too. And you know, when you're a speaker, you know, that dude constantly got press in his face, constantly has subdued quotes. When you're always quoted, when you've got cameras and reporters following around, you're going to make mistakes. I think Mike Johnson maybe should take that one back, and I hope that he does. I think that was a mistake, but I don't want to go over and on and on and on and on and on about it. But I take your point, Paul. My read of it is this. I mean, first of all, it's hard to govern a one seat majority. We had people resigning. I think it felt a little. I'm not alleging anything, but it felt, you know. I'll leave it at that. It's very interesting that these rhinos were retiring. There's some interesting timing there, and we're not really making conspiracies or anything like that. But so it's very hard to it's hard to rally a caucus when you've got an MTG and you've got a McCall and you've got these different personalities. Okay, but my read of it is this: I don't think Mike Johnson's going anywhere now, and I think Trump will support him. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a new speaker in 2025. What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, I think that's essentially what MTG said, and I think there is some of that feeling going around. And look, just one more circle back to the thing with Johnson. I agree with you. I think he is a good person. The read that I got with him, you are good at reading people. I've become better at reading people. The read I got on him initially was that this guy is different than Kevin McCarthy. This guy's different than somebody like Michael McCall. He does not have that feel of kind of establishment or somebody who's been in D.C. too long and become too cozied up to the establishment power. He doesn't feel like that. He feels like a small-town person who is religious and has faith and all that, and that's good. So he's never going to be perfect. However, coming back to the point, what you said about this country is about its ideals. And remember, for everybody, including those of us who are Christian, the pilgrims came here originally because they were fleeing religious persecution.
Great point, Paul. Great
point. That's
how
we got founded.
Sorry, I just had to
we
do that.
must respect
Great point.
Everybody because that's what we were founded upon.
The history major from Cornell, ladies and gentlemen. They're like, great point. That's a perfect point. That's what I'm talking about. Because back then, let me see if I can shake off my dusty cobwebs here. That was the Protestants versus the Catholics, right? Or something like that, or the Calvinists, or it was something like that, right? And oh, geez, I'm rusty. I gotta shake off the cobwebs. Go ahead.
My understanding, and I'd have to brush it up myself. My understanding is that the Puritans were more towards, I believe, the Calvinist position, and they were breaking away from the official Church of England, which had become, its own. It become basically the state and the government and the religion and state and church had melded,
right,
with the Anglican Church, and they didn't want to do that.
Right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Do we want this mountain, the state churches? Do we want like the super popes and all this? I mean, like, come on, dude. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? And where do you take? Here's the other thing that's dangerous about that statement. Forget everything we already just said about that. Let me put that up one more time. And again, I'm not, listen, Speaker Johnson, I'm not trying to be a punk here. I just really hope we all make mistakes. I make mistakes. I'm going to make more mistakes, probably this broadcast. I really hope you take that back because I just think it's really, really off. If we look at this one more time, let's listen to, here's the quote from Fox News. Quote, "We have to make certain that the entire world understands Israel's not alone, and God is going to bless the nation that blesses Israel," Johnson said. "We understand that's our role. It's also our biblical admonition. This is something that's an article of faith for us." Like, bro, when you say that, what's the limit to that? There is no limit to that. Anything goes. I mean, if God's blessing it, hey, you know what? Whatever. If Israel wants to do some, I don't even want to say it. But there's some people that have been when this flared up with Iran. I mean, you had Ben Shapiro, I believe. I may be wrong. I'm not. Let me take that back. In my opinion, you had some people talking about Israel having nuclear weapons. And if things got bad, then maybe so then what? Hey, if it's our biblical admonition, what are you doing, Mike Johnson? Are you out of your mind, sir? You can't say that. You are Speaker of the United States. So we've had Mike Johnson talking about this biblical admonition, and then we've got Democratic leaders waving. And I'm going to put that up again here because we got to do that. We got to put that up again here. Anna Paulina Luna called them out because you had Democratic representatives after the Ukrainian vote and the Israel vote and all that, that vote, waving Ukrainian flags on the House floor. And this is from C-SPAN, and this is Anna Paulina. You can see this on Anna Paulina Luna. So this is public domain. This is on her Twitter X page here. Let's show that on screen right now. And this is what happened there.
House will be in order. Without objection, a motion to reconsider is laid on the table. For what purpose does
here
the
comes John G. Villarreal radio show here on Newstalk 1040. And a plea
the
Luna.
gentlewoman from Florida?
Stand up. Put those damn flags away.
Put those put those blank flags away. Excuse me, I apologize there. This is what you've had going on this last week. This is, and here's the thing. When you've got this stuff happening, this, in my opinion, political malpractice, quite frankly. And then some people say that Trump's the chaos agent. We need Trump back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying, Paul? We need we need sanity back, dude. We need sanity back. Go ahead, Paul. We got 2 minutes.
I'm so glad you said that because that's what this all leads back to. We hear about supposedly Trump is a problem with the party. Bro, Trump is like Michael Jordan playing with high schoolers when you have some of these people in their amateur stuff. That's what you're seeing right now. Trump is way too smart for some of these things, but he's got to deal with teammates that just can't hang.
They can't hang. It's out of control. Props to respect to Representative Anna Paulina Luna for Congresswoman Luna from getting out there and saying that. And listen, I don't have an interest in going there, the outrage war, the back and forth, that you did this and you did this and the whataboutism, stuff like that. But we're talking about two massive mistakes politically that have happened under Mike Johnson's leadership. It's not a good look. And I think MTG had a good point. Go back to your districts, hear from the constituents, and then let's see what's up. People make mistakes all the time. They're there, they're voting, they're going back and forth. It's a stressful job. It's a stressful job. I'm not saying I could do any better. I'd like to believe that I could do pretty good. Who knows? I don't even want to say that. Like, I'm not even a congressperson. But I mean, it's just, we got to do better, dude. I mean, it doesn't matter what John Villarreal, Paul Villarreal can do. You're the speaker. You're supposed to be able to do the job. Got to do the job. We're going to do a job here on News Talk 1040. You're listening to John D. Villarreal radio show. Back in 6 minutes, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. See you soon. What's up, everyone? John D. Villar here, the John D. Villar Radio Show here on Newstalk 1040, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Lots to talk about here. We're joined by Paul at Villarreal. It is the 5 o'clock hour, 5:06, all around the greater Tampa Bay area here. Hope you had a great weekend. It's Passover tonight. Happy Passover to everybody that celebrates there. Also Earth Day today, so happy Earth Day for that. And actually, there's a pretty good series on Netflix that I was watching. I can't remember what the name of it is. It's about animals and stuff, and it's really fascinating. And it was, I think, narrated by Kate Blanchett. I think that's right. Pretty cool. We love the animals and all that type of stuff. So very, very cool. We're talking about a lot of stuff. We're talking about Speaker Mike Johnson. We were talking about that. We're talking about the foreign aid that passed. What's going on with the Republican Party? We hit that pretty well last hour. This hour, we have so much to get to. If you want to call in and talk about that a little bit, you're welcome to do that at 727-587-1040, 727-587-1040. Lots of other stuff to talk about here. Trump trials, what's going on in the Ivy Leagues, Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson talk for 3+ hours. Tesla's dropping prices. Are we in an EV price war right now? I mean, what's going on? 2024 looks tough in automotive. Ryan Garcia shocks the world. ESG versus fans in gaming and entertainment. So much to talk about. Have we hit peak woke? I believe that we have. Where do we go from here? Just a ton to talk about right here. Let's just very quickly put some of this on the table right now, because I would be remiss if we didn't get to, Paul and I have both had elite educations, and I would be remiss. Over half my family went to Ivy League schools. Tons of friends of mine. I may do one last thing. We'll see at an Ivy or Stanford. I don't know. Well, I have so much education, but I'm a lifelong learner. I love education, but it doesn't matter. It's not about that. Let's look at this. Let's look at this right now, because we've got all these things going on, and I don't want to get too into it, but we have to talk about it. Newstalk 1040 on the screen right here, as I'm showing right here. Just a quick perusal. A quick perusal of just the headlines right now. Just the headlines right now. Fox News a day ago, quote, anti-Israel Yale protesters join Columbia students to, quote, tear down our society. CNN, quote, students are scared. Columbia crisis spirals as tension simmers. That's 1 hour ago. Yahoo, quote, Ivy League protests, protests spiral into actual terror. NYPD, NBC New York, NYPD at the ready as intensified Columbia protests forced university, 11 hours ago, Columbia cancels in-person classes to reset. Fox News 2 hours ago, Harvard closes Harvard Yard, as protesters take over Ivy. 2 hours ago, Yale University, dozens arrested during protest. Now, and I apologize. I'm rephrasing some of those things, just for the bots and stuff like that out there. Slightly, we just want to make sure that everything remains on the up and up here, in my opinion. And we'll talk about that. There's just certain things you can't talk about. Or, you know what I mean? Like some of these platforms, listen, that's a whole different thing. We might get to that and Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson. We're talking a little bit about that. Now, anyway, doesn't matter. Paul, your take. You went to Cornell, an Ivy League school. We both know lots of Ivy League graduates. What's your take on what's going on right now? I mean, it just seems to me that we have a bunch of issues going on right now, and I think there's a lot of people that there's a lot to talk about. We've talked about it. I've had my comments on what's going on over there. We only have 50 minutes left here to hit a lot of subjects, but in the midst of all that stuff, it's an election year. Hillary Clinton is saying, or I think Nancy Pelosi said some of this might be AstroTurf. There are, and I think you had a really great point. I don't want to steer your line, but you can elaborate on it. That, the first day or two, whatever. I went to Berkeley for 7 years, 4 undergrad, and then 3 in law school. And there was almost constant protests. And it was always, like you said, you'd see the same people at all the protests. Now, some people, you'd see different people at different protests, but sometimes you'd see the same people or similar. It looks like the same people at a lot of the same protests. And the people that are there day after day after day are the ones that can be there day after day after day and maybe are professional protesters. What do you make of what's going on right now? And it just seems like we've already entered the silly season for the election. Obviously, these are real issues. Obviously, people are upset about this. Obviously, there's things to talk about. There's different people, there's different arguments on different sides, and we can't sort that all out right now. We've talked about that a lot. We can touch on it a little bit. But what do you make of these protests right now in the Ivy Leagues? This thing is spreading.
I think it's on fire right now, particularly in Columbia. And I believe that it stepped up a level after President Shafiq testified to Congress, which I believe was early last week. And so after that took place, it really seemed to increase. And now we're at a point where, I think you mentioned it, they canceled in-person classes today because they were concerned about people's safety. So there's stuff going on at Columbia, there's stuff going on at Yale. Those seem like the 2 biggest flashpoints. Look, I went to Cornell, as you mentioned. Cornell has a heavy Jewish population, which I think is great. There's Hillel, there's all kinds of things there. And some of what I have heard taking place there just shocked me, even though we know everything that's gone on in the world in the last 10, 15 years. I was still stunned, given the history of Cornell and just kind of like what, just the what it is as an organization.
Bill Maher, Cornell graduate. Amy Siskine, Cornell graduate. Lots of other Cornell graduates. Go ahead. Many people come to Cornell from like Long Island and New York City or Westchester County. So it's just stunning to me. But you mentioned Nancy Pelosi. Nancy Pelosi went on Meet the Press, I believe, about 2 weeks ago, and she was asked about the protest. And you said this. She said, look, essentially she said, I think some of this is AstroTurf, meaning some of this is fake. This is where you see some of the people with the pre-made signs, and there's a whole stack of them ready, just sitting there waiting for these people. Well, where did that come from? That didn't come from nowhere. And so I do think that there is a good portion of this which is inorganic. Now, that being said, there are plenty of people who do feel very strongly about this, and there are real issues here. The problem is when some of these movements get co-opted and it can become something different. You mentioned what I had said previously, which is this. A lot of times, in my opinion, the longer protests go on, the more things can deteriorate, because I think that the hardcore people, the people that are maybe professional protesters, they're the ones that stay with it the longest. So what might start out as kind of nice and cheerful and everything can degenerate, I think, over time, because then you're getting the more dug in people that do this for a living, and they have, let's be honest, they have incentive to do it. I mean, they have incentive to keep it going and to kind of get maybe a return on potential investment. So what I think is happening right now, and this is probably the biggest news of the day right now, what is taking place at Columbia. There are a number, I think the entire New York congressional delegation has called for President Shafiq to step down from Columbia, because there's so much focus on what is happening on this. Mayor Adams of New York City has said, look, I don't like what's going on. We have police on the perimeter that are ready to deal with this, but Columbia is a private institution. So unless President Shafiq tells us to go in, we can't go in.
She has to tell us these people are trespassing. So I think there's a bunch of pressure coming down on President Shafiq. And as you mentioned, President Biden was asked about this maybe within the last hour. I think since we've been on, he seemed to kind of dance around it because it is a very touchy political issue in the Democratic base. And so I think he's trying to play both sides.
The Democrats are so stuck on this.
Anybody.
The Democrats are crushed on this one. Politically, they are in big trouble. The Democrats on this, because you've got swing states of Michigan and others where you have a large population of people that are, in fact, I think I saw something to the extent, I got to find this polling. I want to say that it's something like 57% of Biden voters are against, that think, and I'm going to rephrase this, okay, you go find the exact quoting, now I'm going to rephrase this, that think that what's going on over there is wrong, okay, that we're supporting the wrong side over there. 57%, I'm going to find that and I'll put it up there. I don't want to say it on the air. You can go find that. Now you've got this that is passed. And at the same, you've got, oh man, they are just so stuck. I mean, look, it's a thing. You had Ben Shapiro, all for DeSantis and against Trump and sounded like a never Trumper. And then these things have been happening and realize there's nowhere to go, Ben Shapiro. You're right back to Trump, dude. Because the Democratic side, that is not right now, the Democrat side is not the pro-Israel side. Now, the leaders are, but the base isn't. And they are in real hot water over there, in terms of, trying to square that circle of, how can you be the party of Joe Lieberman, rest in peace. And I said some good things, and Mike Bloomberg had some great comments, and, Johns Hopkins alumni, and I put that on my LinkedIn, stuff like that. How can you be the party of Joe Lieberman, or even the party of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, and being the party of Rashida Tlaib and the squad? It's a tough deal. Now, we have to lower the temperature all around this stuff. This is just, listen, war's bad. This is the Ukraine thing, dude. I mean, what are we winning? I get listen, I mean, I don't know. I'm no military expert. I mean, I don't want to get into all this type of stuff. But we had all the calls for Afghanistan. 20 years later, how'd that end up? I have friends that served over there in Afghanistan. And they're great. They saw some rough stuff, dude. And they didn't. And then how many people know someone that didn't come back the same, or brought a lot of other things with them, PTSD, whatever it is? Ukraine is decimated. War is not. I mean, what did this last week or so prove? Iran basically proved, hey, Israel, we can hit you. 99% got shut down. I heard it was closer to like 84%. In fact, Haaretz had a thing out there. I'll try. I think it's right, or Jay Post, or one of these. I can try to find. There's so much I can't get to everything that, so I may be making mistakes. So, but basically that. Oh yeah, no, multiple airports were hit. They were hit. There was some damage. All those targets that they wanted to hit, they hit. Basically, I don't want to say all that. I don't know. A lot of targets were hit. More. Let me revise and extend that. That more targets were hit than they first thought that were first reported hit. So a lot of people would, some experts, military experts, not me, I'm not military, said that basically Iran showed that they could hit what they wanted to hit. Well, Israel went and showed that they could hit what they wanted to hit in Iran. So this is what I tried to say before. All the weapons are good now, dude. Everyone can inflict serious pain on everyone else, pretty much. The major powers. And no one power can just say, we're just going to steamroll everybody. You've got these kids, and listen, probably get in trouble for this. My sister protested against. She went to a very liberal school before she went to Cornell. I'm not gonna lay it all out here, but a very liberal school, in my opinion, and protested the whole apartheid situation in South Africa. And I got to be super careful what I say here. I'm not. That's a standalone statement. That does not apply to anything else. I'm being very, very, very clear about that. Okay. And look. That's a good thing, right? Because it wasn't there was a bad system there in South Africa, right? And the People's Park and the free speech protests of the 60s and stuff like that in Berkeley, those are good things too. There's a lot of times where protests or some of these things on college campuses are very worthwhile. People protesting against the Vietnam War, things like that. Okay. But there's also a lot of stupid things that happen in college campuses, okay? I mean, why do you think they made a movie, Animal House, things like that? Now, of course, that's a movie, it's a parody, but we've got all these protests now. I mean, when you have a situation like that, dude, I went to school when they were, sitting in the dean's office and shutting things down. What happened in the Berkeley Dean Chemerinsky's house, his house, where he invited students in. You've got situations where the Democrats and the far leftists are doxing Supreme Court justices, where their house, Tucker Carlson had his house picketed. Majority Leader McConnell, same thing there. You've got law schools at Stanford and Yale where federal judges can't speak. Where the Federalist Society can't speak, if I remember correctly. I may be wrong, not allege anything. And you have these protesters shutting down these campuses. That's unfair to the other students. These are educational institutions. These are not activist institutions. It's the same thing with Google. Google fired the 28 people that try to shut people down. Vote for whatever you want to vote for, believe whatever you want to believe, but you do not have a right to shut down business. You do not have a right to shut down these universities. And I have to say this, I'm all for peace. I've been saying this everyone seems to be, not everyone, a lot of thought leaders are coming around to my way of thinking that I've been articulating since the jump. I've got the receipts, go look at the tape. And that's probably because, I don't know, I try to be reasonable. I love everyone, and I whatever. I've got a mixed marriage. We have a mixed family, whatever. Like, dude, it's Hatfield McCoy's. At some point, it's got to stop. Paul and I detailed this. We had good comments on that before. At some point, it's got to stop. But you do have a very scary situation right now. Now, is this an op, or is this being, you had, some people, Pelosi, I guess earlier on Fox, this is from New York Post. I don't have time to share the screen. There's so much to get to. This is Ryan King. It's published January 28th. Headline, New York Post. Pelosi suggests Putin is behind a wave of anti-Israel protests in the U.S. Who the hell? Who knows? Is it the far left people? Is this organic? Is this funded by Iran? Is this funded by Putin? Is this funded by nobody? By who knows? Is this to rev people up for the election? I don't know. Is it totally organic? I have no idea, but I do know this. This is kind of scary situation. This is not a good look. This is not a cool thing. On the eve of Passover, this is pretty scary. Everyone has a right to go to school and be safe. Jewish students, Muslims, everybody. Like, this is out of control. This is not a way to act. We cannot have this. You want to protest free speech, that's fine. When you shut things down, people don't, when things get physical, stuff like that, that's a different deal. I don't want to get into I don't want to have a con law class here. And then, again, not licensed for, not practicing for, all that type of stuff. Paul, I've said a lot. And again, I apologize if I made any mistakes. I reserve the right to revise and extend. Obviously, these are hot topics. We're trying to do the best to handle them appropriately. Go ahead, your comments quickly.
Well, look, I think one of the main things with this is that what we've seen primarily from left in the last however many years is that everything is a protest.
Right.
And so when everything is a protest, nothing means anything. The protest, like you said, then you start getting skeptical. Is this real? Is this being used specifically for political purposes rather than what is supposedly the issue that is being talked about? That's what part, I think, a lot of skepticism is. Another thing I will tell you politically about this for Joe Biden, that's a very real problem, in addition to what the base feels in the Democratic Party, is that, remember, in 2020, what is one of the things he campaigned on? He campaigned on Charlottesville and what was supposedly going on in that rally there that took place that nobody liked.
Good point.
He said that President Trump was encouraging the bad language that took place there. Well, what is this?
Yeah,
what is happening now? Charlottesville was one day. This is a sustained thing that we've seen for months now. So I think people are starting to call him on that. Whatever you think about the issues and anything like that, I'm just speaking from a political perspective. This is becoming even more problematic for Biden because of what he did, his pillars were in 2020. So there's a lot going on right now. And like you said, look, I follow plenty of people who are the Jewish faith, and I'm following them on Twitter. People are scared.
You should be. Well, I'm going to say that. Let me take that back. The optics are brutal. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how much is real, organic, whatever, not real, whatever. But I mean, the optics are brutal. Those headlines are brutal. That is those scary headlines. What is going on with the Ivy Leagues? What is going on with? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I was going to tell you this. From people I know at Cornell, and from being at Cornell, again, I haven't been up there a lot recently, but I still know some people that are there. When this stuff started happening, people were legitimately afraid. Like afraid in a way that we haven't experienced in a very long time. And I'm not a person of Jewish faith, but that you don't see in America very often. I know people who were terrified, and that is just not a good place. And that nobody, as you said, nobody should feel like that.
Well, and again, I gotta be careful. My wife's in the other room. I don't want to get in trouble. But I mean, you know this well, Paul. I mean, long before I met my wife, I almost married a Jewish woman, and we have lots of Jewish friends. And this is a scary situation, but I think it all, and we might get to this with Gamergate and the 50% solution is not 100% solution. Like, dude, everyone's got to respect everyone else, and we're all human beings. We all have to come together, and that's where I take big exception with Speaker Johnson. Not to get into that again, but I mean, anytime you got to separate the religious stuff from the political policy stuff. And when you start talking about you start infusing that type of stuff and all this land is, and then it's no end in sight, dude. So it's so much to talk about. I'm an optimist. I think we're going to figure it out. You're listening to John D. Villarreal radio show here. We're going to sort some more stuff out in the next break here on Newstalk 1040 and live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Be right back.
From
What's up? It's John D. Villarreal here. You're listening to John D. Villarreal Radio Show on Newstalk 1040 AM, live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X, joined by Paul at Villarreal. Okay, we got one segment. We have so much to cover. It's unbelievable. Hope everyone's having a good time out there. And look, here's what I'm trying to say. I don't want to get caught up in the wordplay and stuff like that. But everyone can believe whatever they want to believe. And that's fine. And we got lots of different diversity and religion. And that's awesome. And particularly here in the U.S. But I think that everyone has to be treated fairly and equally. And that's it. And it's like, you know, when you start making statements, particularly as Speaker of the House, that like, you know, that maybe imply one country's better than another country or this and that, or, you know, you start mixing in religion and that's not a, you know, particularly U.S. policy, and there's a war going on. That's not a good thing, dude. This isn't the Crusades, bro. Like, we're not doing that. And I'm not alleging that, but it's just like, that's not a good look. We have to get to peace. It's as simple as that. You know, defense is supposed to be for defensive purposes and stuff like that. Meanwhile, we have a terrible economy. We're spending money like crazy. You know, there's all kinds of issues and problems here. There's all kinds of inflation. They're printing more money and stuff like that. And all I wish for people in Passover, first of all, all students should feel safe. If you are good enough and you made it to the top of the, you know, to elite level, and you're spending money or whatever it is, or your parents, you got a scholarship, anything, and you need to be able to go to school. Harvard, Yale, Berkeley, wherever. I get invited to a special event at the Berkeley Law Dean's house. I want to talk to my colleagues and hear from Berkeley Dean. I don't want to hear protests. I'm sorry. Save that for Sprout Positive. Save that for your own time. This is the thing. You don't have a right to just hijack businesses. You don't have a right to shut down the Golden Gate Bridge. You don't have a right to shut down, you know, Google cloud services or whatever it is. You don't have a right to stop people from going to cloud, whatever. I don't know. And people should treat each other right. And, you know, and we need to be, we have one planet, this Earth, you know what I mean? Like, maybe at some point, Mars, Moon, who knows, whatever, Moon, Titan, I don't know. Right now, we're all here, players. This is all got to stop. We got to get to peace, dude. And listen, I'm a serious Republican, conservative, libertarian, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, you know, this isn't peace. You know, this isn't hippie movement. Where do you think America first? Where do you think the MAGA move? Where do you think Trump and these people are? Where do you think Trump's at? Meanwhile, we have all this other stuff going on. And what it does show, Paul, and I'll bring you in right now, and we're going to spin through these other topics quickly. What I think, so I just want to very much clarify. We love everybody. We love Jewish people, Christians, Hindu, Muslim, everybody, Buddhist. I don't care. We're for everybody, and that's what America should be about, and that's what America foreign policy should be about, and et cetera like that. And we need our best. The problem that's happening, and I know you're ready for this, Paul, is this extreme leftist cultural Marxism that got ramped up in my opinion, it's been going for quite some time. I mean, a lot of these bad ideas started out there in California. I was there at Berkeley, dude. I mean, I was doing unfortunately, I had to do critical race theory in one of my law classes decades ago. Decades ago, I saw this coming a long way. But I think if this got hypercharged, supercharged, this got, ramped up during the Obama administration. We had the community organizing tactics, the Chicago politics tactics. Now, as you say, everything's a protest. And whether it's Disney, whether it's Gamergate 2.0, whether it's Star Wars, whether it's the Marvel Universe, whether it's Planet Fitness, they just changed CEOs there, okay? There's so many of these things, and that now all these protests, Bill Ackman, a lot of these alumni. Mr. Kraft of New York Patriots just said he's basically had some sharp comments for Columbia, his alma mater there, has got a big endowment there and stuff like that. It is shown and exposed how far left, how insane these institutions have become. And the forcing of the woke agenda. Whether it's, the ESG mandates and stuff, coming from some of these big investment firms and stuff like that. I mean, people look about, ownership of, we know the names with these big funds. And it just is exposed like how bad this has been, Paul, and it's out of control. And Bill Maher one more thing. Bill Maher had an explosive takedown of this whole thing. And I cannot repeat it. It was in his new rules, his last program. You can go see it. It's up on YouTube, stuff like that. It's on Netflix. And was basically saying, some of these story hours and other things are maybe more for the adults than for the kids. They were showing some stuff that I don't know how anyone can sign on to as I don't send my kids to kindergarten for these types of things. Nobody's against anybody, but let the kids be the kids. And he actually defended DeSantis. Bill Maher defended DeSantis in this because we've had explosive revelations, maybe allegations in regards to some of these things coming out of Hollywood. I don't even want to name names. It's all been in the news. And when you Weinstein, Epstein Island, and now the new news from the music industry and from Nickelodeon and from there's some really scary stuff out there, and we have to protect our kids. And it's one of the comments I made with Fallout, the series on Amazon. I did that as a separate thing. I'm a big time. I used to host GameSpot TV. I'm a major gamer. I was a pro level. No. I was a world class gamer, not a pro level gamer. Pro level gamer is at one game, and I'm the best. I focus just on that game. I'm playing Madden, Call of Duty, whatever like that. I don't want to get too much into that, but I've done video game deals. I was a big name in the gaming space. And I grew up on Fallout, loved Fallout. Now, did the Amazon series sort of diversify it? Yeah. But did I think it was still great? Yeah. And I think it was maybe one or half a level, maybe too woke, whatever, dial that back, whatever. Yeah, they retconned a little bit, but it's fine. They were paid respects to the fans. And at this point, you've got ESG versus the fans. And what I'm saying is, I think both things are true. I think it's good and important to have diversity and make sure everyone feels that they have a fair shot, that they have an equal shot. We want everybody to have an equal 100% solution, 50% solution, not 100% solution. We want the best house for everyone, okay? And at the same time, I think we can recognize that across the board, things have gotten way too crazy, way too left, way too out of control. And I think that this is being driven. This is why don't be a mark. We love wrestling here, pro wrestling in the Tampa Bay area. Hulk Hogan's here, the late great Randy Savage. Don't be a mark. Don't fall for the op. there's a lot of propaganda out there that, George Orwell, the 2 minutes of hate and stuff like that. It's like there's a small amount. Sometimes it's a small amount of activists that are ramping up everybody else on all kinds of issues. And we've seen this over the last 5, 6, 7 years, right? And it just seems that when it's election time, here we go. But it's been happening all the time. It's like it's a never-ending protest. Paul, I put a lot on the table. Your comments.
Yeah, look, I agree with all of that. I think that there's a balance. It is important to have everybody have an equal opportunity. It is important for everybody to feel included, but you can go too far the other way. When you start saying that being on time is a negative attribute of one group, that just doesn't make any sense. That just, stuff like that just is nonsensical. So, look, the good thing, I think, in a lot of respects with this, or potentially a good thing, is the Supreme Court has had some recent decisions about some of these matters. About, of course, the case with the students against the college admissions offices. And just this last week, I think there was a case, I want to say it's Merdlow versus St. Louis or something, which is basically saying that I believe a police officer.
I know the case you're talking about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. She basically felt like she didn't get an advancement or something because of her background. And you can't do things like that. You still have to want to include everybody and give everybody a chance. You still have to have concepts of merit and so on and so forth. Because if not, things don't work out. You can never legislate equality of outcomes. That is never going to happen for anybody ever. And it just doesn't work like that. But you can help people have an opportunity or have a shot. And I think that's what we should be striving for. And as you said, things are infinitely better than they used to be.
Of
Things
course
are
they
so
are.
much better than when we were young.
Right.
I mean, so it's I think that's the thing here, is that there were people who were educated in the 80s and the 90s, as we were, who had critical race theory classes, who, like myself, took a bunch of classes on Latino studies and multiculturalism. And so you have people who learn these things and kind of learn some of these more radical, whatever, concepts. And now they're trying to apply it to a world that isn't in that place anymore. So you're trying to almost reinvent a problem that really, thankfully, doesn't exist that much any longer.
Well, and
that
also
doesn't mean there's no problems or no issues, but let's celebrate the progress.
Let's celebrate the progress. And also, there's lots of problems and there's lots of issues. What about the crisis going on in Niger, over in Africa? What about what's going on in Brazil? What about what's going on with the Uyghurs over in China? I mean, there's so many different things that are happening. It's not even, so you can't. Look. A lot of this is complicated.
Can I say something about that?
Go ahead.
We talk about critical race theory. Critical theory, which of course is what critical race theory is derived from. Critical theory, which is, I believe, from the 30s, 40s. The problem, one of the main limitations with critical theory, and I think there's some good things about it in terms of what it looks at, is that it focuses almost exclusively on the West. So that things like Niger, they don't talk about that. It's all what is wrong with the West and with America and whatever, and that's just not realistic.
Right, and the thing is that like, let alone Sudan, we got all kinds of different problems around. Okay, and so I met someone not from Ghana. I can't remember exactly. Anyway, he came over here with his wife. So we were talking about all kinds of stuff going on in Africa. Really cool guy in the healthcare field, and he's like, oh, like, oh, I try. I mean, talk about anyway. Here's the deal. Some of this is complicated, some of this is simple. It all comes back to simple principles. I mean, a lot of it gets complicated, and that is this. There's this one organization. It's like, oh yeah, we empower women, and it's for women. We want to elevate women and keep them in positions of power, and this and that, whatever. Okay, what if you had a men's organization that said that? And that was the case, and that, thank goodness for the Supreme Court 9-0 decision. And they were trying to argue that, well, some discrimination is good and other discrimination is not so good. No, all discrimination is bad. Okay, all discrimination is bad. A 50% solution is not a 100% solution. If you're a school, a law firm, if you're a tech company, a venture company, and we don't like conservatives, we're just gonna Hollywood. If you're just gonna accept super liberals and super woke people, and not accept any conservatives, and we didn't like this tweet and whatever like that, then that's wrong. You need diversity of opinion too. Diversity of opinion too. The problem is that Hollywood has lost the thread, lost the plot, dude. ESG is against the fans. Why do you think we got this NPR CEO? I mean, she just jams in my opinion, every buzzword, super liberal. I mean, all together, dude. Talking about gender privilege and mobility privilege and everything just all in. I mean, you can't hit more. I mean, it's like, and Chris Rufo had a good thing about that. And again, that's how you get 87-0. 87 registered Democrats and 0 registered Republicans allegedly in that newsroom. And that's publicly funded. How is that good for anybody? How do you think you represent America? And they've had some good programs. Fresh Air, All Things Considered. They cover a lot of the art stuff. They cover a lot. I mean, it's sad, dude. That's not what it should be. No different than, listen, I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to be a punk. I mean, a lot of people can't listen to, don't like my style, whatever. I get it. But I can't listen to certain people on the conservative side because it's the same thing every day. The moon could blow up potentially, and Biden did this. Stop, dude. Do you realize the moon just blew up? I mean, what are we doing, dude? The point is we got to get politics out of all this stuff. We are way too political right now. It is not good. We don't need to be talking about holy wars or anything like that. We need less wars. We need less politics. We need real leaders to step up. I'm going to turn to Rogan and Tucker here in a second. I knew we weren't going to get all of it. Just no way. It's too much. I may do some more broadcasting later tonight with Paul. We'll see. I have a lot of stuff going on my end. But we might go live on Rumble, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. And it's like this. If you want a good economy, this is all. Let me try to break it down as simple as possible. And this is the one good thing about me. That's why I was so good at law and economics. I don't know. Whatever. I can dive into the complex, but I can also extract it right back to the very, very simple concepts and hopefully communicate that. I don't always do that, but I'm pretty good. Anyway, here's the deal. If you want a great economy, you need as many people working as possible and as much productivity as you can get. Productivity and people working, people hours, whatever like that, that's what creates stuff. The more technology you have, the more you can produce goods cheaper, more efficiently. If you don't have people working because of wars, because of lockdowns, fill in the blank, you're going to have less stuff. Everything takes energy. If you want to ship something, computers, online, offline, in person, remote, all takes energy. So the more energy costs, the more everything else is going to cost. Right now, we have serious supply side inflation that cannot be cured until you cure that supply side, buddy, in my opinion. So that's very simple. You need low energy prices, and you need lots of people working, and you need lots of efficiency. Anything that impedes that is going to hurt the economy. Now, at the same time, you still have to have a life. Now, I can't get into this right now. You have a real crisis going on, particularly with men, but you have a real crisis going on with relationships, people not getting married, not having kids, particularly in the West, not staying married. There's all kinds of stuff that's an absolute train wreck for relationships, childbirth, and the family. If we don't have a next generation, we don't have children, it all goes away, buddy. And you can have your relationship, or you can fight out those, but at the end of the day, if people aren't having kids, and what's the best environment for kids? A nuclear family. This is not rocket science. This has been known. So yes, It's good to make progress, but yes, at the same time, things that have been done for 50, 100,000 years, 200, there may be something to it. Probably is. So when you disrupt families and you make things harder on kids, single parent families are not, the households, that's not a good place to be. Well, let me revise and extend that. The studies suggest that that's not the best environment for a child. Now, if that's what you have to do, someone died. Listen, our hearts go out to everyone out there trying to do the best. And there's a lot of, single dads, single moms doing their best, and we support you. But we need policies and personal responsibility that steps up and makes it happen for families. The more you can try to it's just like me, it's just like anybody. If I want to be in shape, I got to go to the gym. I got to eat right. I can't always do that, but if I want to do the right things, I got to do the right things. So to the extent that we have policies or media or propaganda that says, you go, girl, you don't need a man, that's craziness when it comes to a family. No different than if they said it the other way around. You can be a player all your life, whatever. That's stupidity too. So I disagree with a lot of these things. So no, you're not going to get a good economy. You're not going to get peace if it's more war. That's not good. And if you think my group's the best and your group's not, and I'm here and you're there, that's not good. Or I'm not hiring any liberals, stuff like that, that's not good. This is super simple. So yes, you got to balance out in your own life, like, okay, what do I need to do for my personal goals and family? If that's what you want, if you don't want that, you don't want that. How do we get everyone working? How do we have a meritocracy? How do we lift people up? How do we include people? How do we be as diverse as possible? How do we get along as much as possible? So it's the same thing with why wars aren't good. Okay, wars aren't good in a big sense. That's a macro. That's easy to understand. But if we're constantly suing each other and fighting and arguing, that's not productive either. What does everybody want? Everybody wants to be happy, make money, have a good family, live their best life, whatever that means. Hopefully retire, have some money, have something to live with your kids, whatever, travel, do whatever they want to do. You don't get that if you are fighting with people and whatever that means, verbally or otherwise, or in these wars, and you got to work together. When you put up barriers to doing business, to hiring people, to going into college, anything that, when you shut down a campus and you're not learning, it hurts you. Just like when we were locked down, it hurt those kids. They're years behind sometimes. This is all, if you have to do it, you have to do it. But now we're having a second look in hindsight 2020 on that. So things that are productive are productive. So when you are striving for power and when it's our side versus this side and we're going to be in charge, and if I can't be in charge, I'm going to burn it all down. That's a bad look, bro. That's not good for anybody. So you can believe what you want to believe, but we got to get there. When you make movies that the fans don't like, they're not going to do well. When you do games that the fans don't like, they're not going to do well. And The Rock learned that, hey, guess what? I came in thinking this, but the fans wanted something different and he didn't like it, but then he made the switch and he came up with the final boss. Best character ever. Best character he's ever done, in my opinion. And it's a phenomenal success. People can't wait to see more of that because he listened to the fans and he worked with them. He could have shoved it down their throat. He's on the board of TKO. He could have done whatever he wanted to, pretty much. Paul, am I making any sense here last 2 minutes?
Yeah, it makes plenty of sense. Look, I think one of the overarching reasons why people like President Trump so much is that despite everything that was said or warned about him, he oversaw peace. Peace in America, peace in the world. And as you said, that's what we need to get to. That's where we need to be. And he has delivered on that.
He's delivered on that, and I think he's going to do well. We're going to talk about that. We're looking at a lot of different things like that. I've got family in Israel. We've talked about sometimes, at some point, do we want to go back to Israel? I look at Dubai. Dubai's doing great things. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the people of Dubai there with the bad flooding and everything like that. But, look at that model. We talked about that before. The whole world wants to go to Dubai. in Dubai, Singapore, these other places, like, dude, let's work together. Let's work together. Happy Passover, everyone out there. We pray for peace, love, opportunity, for freedom for everyone. We love everyone out there. Happy Passover. Hope everything goes well. I don't know how to wrap this all up, but basically, you understand what we're talking about. I'm looking forward to your comments out there. We wish the best to everyone out there, and wish you the best as well, Speaker Johnson, and we'll see where it goes from here. We need solutions. We're all part of the solution. Let's get together. Let's find some solutions out there and stop blaming each other. Find ways to sit down and get together. That's real leadership. That's what we need. And we all need to work together to make the world better and to produce and work together. And we need to work on these things. So we're so sick of this oppressor, protest, community organizing, all this stuff. You're good, you're bad. No, dude. Well, everyone's got to work together and be cool. If you want to be respected, you got to respect people. Golden rule. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Love you guys out there, men and women, everybody. All the Newstalk 1040 audience out there. Hey, it's John D. Villarreal. Thank you for joining us for 2 hours. Thank you, Paul, for your assistance as always. Thank you, Newstalk 1040 team. This is the John D. Villarreal radio show on Newstalk 1040 live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and X. Have a great week. Happy Passover. Stay blessed. See you next week.
Your home for news, talk, and information.